Now, we were in the state of Tennessee, which isn't that rich for Supercross. It's only the second time we ever had a race in Nashville. But for motocross and Supercross riders in general, Tennessee does have a rich history with the Loretta Lynn's Amateur National, which takes place about an hour down the road from Nashville and has been taking place for 40 years. So this is so cool. They actually brought Loretta Lynn's family to the race, recognized them in opening ceremonies. They got to hang out and watch the race in a suite. That's awesome because they're celebrities. But even cooler, I thought this was really a neat idea. Anyone who was in the stands that has raced Loretta's before, and there's tons of Supercross fans that have, they had a chance to stand up and be recognized. I've never seen that at a Supercross before.
I thought that was really neat. Speaking of Loretta Lynn's, we are going to have the Pro Motocross Championship, which Loretta Lynn's hosted there in that 1 year. Was some fun events. But before we get to Pro Motocross, Jeffrey Hurlings is in the news. Obviously, he's in the news for a lot of reasons as being one of the fastest men on the planet, right? But no, it's the records. We talk about Eli Tomac's records all season long. How about Jeffrey Hurlings? 101, he ties it up, has a chance to break it. And I'm only mentioning him because the Pro Motocross Championship's coming up. There's this race called Southwick. My fingers are crossed. They're going to stay crossed until then. Maybe we see him, maybe we don't. But hey, 101, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we talked about that about a month ago. There is not a conflict to the MXGP schedule. They have an open date that Southwick weekend. Jeffrey has talked about wanting to ride Southwick because he's a sandmaster many, many times. That'd be amazing. And then there's a few other open dates. He could actually qualify for the SuperMotocross World Championship. He could, if he showed up 3 times, the open dates he has. So yes, fingers are crossed. Come on, Jeffrey Hurlings, and congrats on tiring the great Stefan Everts in GP wins. And if you want to go to Pro Motocross, just go to the ProMotocross.com website. Tickets are available now. Again, it's the end of May. We'll have the kickoff starting in Southern California and then work our way from west to east as this championship unfolds. And then we'll get ready for the playoffs in September. And another rider getting ready to return in motocross. First, we heard that Dylan Ferrandis, the 2021 450 champ, he's going to forego the rest of Supercross. He will be back for Pella, try to win back that title in 2023. Probably not being thought about enough. We remember Sexton and Tomac last year, but do not sleep on Ferrandis. And also good, Garrett Marchbanks was in Nashville saying he's going to be ready to go for the 250 class also.
We were hoping to come back around New Jersey last week or Atlanta, but just the wrist injury was a pretty big deal. So we just took the time, made a smart decision 2 weeks ago to just sit out Supercross and go straight in the outdoors. So we've been on outdoor prep for the past 5 weeks now. It's been going actually really well. Made some big steps these past 2 weeks, and looking really forward to that upcoming outdoor season.
That's good to hear. I actually had a chance to talk to the team about him and his recovery, and they said he's trimmed down a bunch, lost a bunch of weight. He's going to ride the 250 class this summer, unless something changes last minute. That's the last I've heard. They said he's done a lot of work to rehab, but also lose some weight. He's a big kid, man. He's super tall. He's strong, but they're trying to trim him up for the summer, and I think he's going to be sneaky good this summer, too. You got to remember, he was good last summer and had national number 35. I mean, you get a lot of points like that. It's because you've done a lot of good things on the track. So good to see him back. Had a terrible injury. The timing was just unbelievable for him. But he's back. He's getting stronger. I think he's going to be a sneaky good competitor this summer in Pro Motocross. And you know what else was cool, Weege? 23% of the premier class victories in this sport were all sitting in the booth together. You bring in Jeremy McGrath, you line him up next to Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart. There's Todd Harris sitting there with him, but 23% all standing in one booth.
Yeah, I mean, really, you could argue the 3 biggest names ever in the sport, maybe the 3 most successful riders ever in the sport. And then for good measure, I mean, we know Ryan Dungey was hanging out in a suite next door, and why not bring Eli Tomac up in the elevator? We could have got ourselves to about 50% of the Supercross wins right there. It's one of the neat things about this sport because everyone competes at the same track on the same weekend at the same time. The greatness is, I guess, a little more recognizable in this sport. So to get MC in there, and he's pretty outspoken as well. When you get him in the booth, he has some really interesting things to say. So fast man on the planet, greatest of all time, king of Supercross. It's an awesome combo. And good job by Todd Harris keeping that all in check. So that was really cool. But again, Nashville, I go back to what we said at the top of the show. It was kind of all over the map. As great as some things were, it was also Crashville. Not just a web crash, a big one for Justin Barsha. Jason Anderson was down over and over and over. It was rough on some of the top riders.
Yeah, and I think as fans, Jason, obviously we work in the industry, but at our core, we're fans. And when you see anybody get hurt and go down, you hate it. But there's certain days that just, whether it's the track or the timing or just some bad voodoo, I don't know. But that one had it. And you're right, it took down Barsha, it took down Webb. Those are the premier guys that I think, obviously suffered the most. But if you go down to the 250 class and even down into practice, guys had a tough time there. And I think that's a combination of the way that track developed, daytime race. Like you said, a lot of energy in the building. Everyone was really fired up to get there. But then, yeah, one by one, we saw the guys go down. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully, Barsh will be back for the Pro Motocross Championship. Webb's already announced he's going to be out for some time. But Nashville, Crashville, I don't know what you want to call it, Nash Vegas. I mean, we can call it a lot of different things, but at least in 2023, it was Crashville. Ken Roczen was one that did not crash in Nashville. In fact, Jason, I'd like to just kind of talk about something different with Ken Roczen that popped up in the post-race press conference and on the podium. He mentioned that when the track is a certain way, it kind of scares him, gives him a little flashbacks to 2017, the big crash he had. And I've always kind of wondered if that was the case with him when the track gets like that. And on a day where he was very, very good, he admitted that that track spooked him and made him have those flashbacks to 2017. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I was, because we've seen plenty of races where we were left scratching our heads over, oh, why did Kenny fade, or why wasn't he as good as he was the last week, or something like that. And he never alluded to any of that, any flashbacks of that brutal crash, which really changed his career. So now we know, surely it's not just Nashville now. Surely this has happened in the past, and he just hasn't admitted it. But to take that point further, I thought it was really interesting to hear veterans like Roczen and Tomac in the press conference talk about how they managed that race. They didn't win the race, but they certainly lived on to be back next weekend. And I think that gave you a little bit of insight in how the veteran riders think. Kenny alluded to that. He's just a lot more patient than he used to be. And it's been a patient journey for the Lawrence brothers. As I alluded to at the top of the show, I think it's very easy right now to see that everything is rolling the Lawrence brothers' way. The money, the fame, the publicity, and the race wins and titles. But that was not a guarantee 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, they were living in obscurity and honestly poverty when they moved from Australia to Europe to try to find a way and eventually get to the United States. And both you and I asked some questions of Hunter in the press conference, and he explained all of that.
Can't say I dreamed of it as a kid, because it was something I just watched on TV when you're a kid, especially in Australia. The sport's not that big there. You know, you kind of don't realize that you could have a career doing this, and you're like, you know, like dad works and you're just going to get a normal job. That's kind of how life is. So it's only really, you know, since I left Australia, Europe, that I was like, oh man, I'd love to do this one day or achieve it. But yeah, as a kid growing up, it was never like, oh dude, I want to be an AMA Supercross champion. It was just like the guys you'd watch on TV, get friends over on a Saturday night. It was just like so far away. So yeah, it's crazy.
And after that press conference, it was the celebration at the Honda truck, which was cool. They actually had DJ KO set up. Of course, they were playing Tool. That's Hunter's favorite band. He has been very outspoken about how much he loves the band Tool. But it was a cool vibe. Everyone got in to give speeches. It was cool to hear Dazzy give his speech. It was obviously very mature. Jet gave his speech. It was obviously the polar opposite of that. But it was just cool to watch everybody celebrate the moment. For me, Hunter's mechanic, that was my favorite speech of all of them, but that's because it was the one that was hardest to get the words out. He was pretty emotional, but the celebration was cool. It was classy, and it was for a classy guy. Hunter Lawrence has been very good this year. He's been good on the podium too, and they nailed the celebration. It was perfect.
Yeah, they nailed it, and that also served as a little bit of a rehearsal, because they might be doing it again at the same rig this weekend in Denver, because it seems almost assured that Jet Lawrence will do what Hunter did. So we bring 250 West back this weekend. It's going to be tough to rip the championship out of Jet's hands. So I think what we're looking at now is RJ Hampshire second in points. Can he finally get a win this year? And Enzo Lopes is actually third in points. So a few other things to watch also in 250 West. But it looks like we're going to be handing out another number one plate soon.
Yeah, this one isn't as guaranteed as Hunter's. Hunter just had to get 20th, pretty much roll around. In fact, 3 laps from the end, Hunter had actually clinched the championship because he had lapped so far up. So don't tell him that, but the last 3 laps, Hunter, you had already won it. Just want to let you know that. But no, for Jet, it's going to be a little bit tougher than that, but still, he will probably take care of business and do the same thing. So I'm with you. It's RJ Hampshire. Can you win this season? He's been so good. Enzo Lopes, Max Volan's all of a sudden starting to warm up a little bit. So I think I'm with you. I'm more intrigued by what's going to happen behind Jet than just another championship round, which would be his 4th straight, which is pretty incredible.
We're heading to Denver this weekend. It'll be 3:30 Eastern time, the start of Race Day Live on Peacock, and then 9 o'clock Saturday night Eastern will be the start of the night show racing, again, on Peacock.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, You can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.